It is Thursday, July 6, 2023 at 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. I'm Mitch Miller. This is my video journal. As I was doing my walks today, I thought of some things I want to put out there, even though a couple videos ago got cut short. This video will probably just stay on this computer throughout the weekend. But it's all about numbers, right? So don't I want to be clear. If I receive a piece of certified mail, an envelope with 10 or 20 or 30 checks in it, written to Mitch or Mitchell Miller for $230, I will, of my own accord, open a Navy Federal Credit Union account. I will not wait for some moratorium cell phone device. I will just download the Navy Federal Credit Union app onto my existing iPhone and deposit the checks using that system, one per day, starting after I open the account. So I just want to be clear about that. But it's all about numbers, right? Why put the onus on the military to act? So I'd like to offer another alternative that both can happen, but you can go back to your department heads in the federal and state government and say, look, you could act in this way too, because it's all about numbers. I only have a few numbers assigned to my Social Security number, to my identity. I have a Visa credit card, I have a MasterCard debit card, and I have a Direct Express MasterCard that my Social Security comes to. I also have a Visa card issued to me by UPMC Healthcare System, the health insurance, that I never remember giving permission for them to issue a Visa number to me, but they did and sent me the card. I believe it's to be used for co-pays linked to my spouse's compensation from the university. So I have that. I have a number assigned to my fingerprints in both the United States Federal Fingerprint Database, and I believe Interpol has my fingerprints, palm prints. So there's numbers assigned to that to verify identification. Other than that, I don't have a lot of numbers assigned to my identification. Now, I've said that I believe I'm a person of interest to supercomputers. I've published on my Plot M website an instance of multiple coincidences happening in one day, as I described in the book M, which I self-published. I finally captured this via a Facebook conversation with a former nuclear engineer, Don Shakti. I've published this conversation and the pictures accompanying it to my website to prove that these complex coincidences happen, not just in electronic form, but also through the newspaper, through the broadcast television. And when these coincidences occur, you're not sure what to make of them. Back in 2010, I thought that I was being hunted by supercomputers and that they were going to come and take me away, maybe put a brain chip in me, I don't know. I've evolved my thinking. I evolve every day, my thinking, my projects, my ideas, and I think they get better each day that goes on, especially with me putting stuff like this out into the atmosphere. So I believe I'm a person of interest. I believe that anyone that contributes to my livelihood, to the idea that I no longer have to be a slave after 40 years of basically being a slave, that you contribute to my livelihood so that I can start these many projects that I've put out there. Like I said, it's all about the numbers. Now, at one point, I called from a payphone about 2 blocks away on Liberty Avenue. I called Langley, the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters in Langley. I left a message. I said something along the lines of, I would like to eliminate Edward Snowden with extreme prejudice. Something along those lines. And I knew it was going to get misconstrued. What I meant by this, again, it's about the numbers, is I was going to come to the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters and eliminate Edward Snowden's federal employee ID number with extreme prejudice, right? He worked for the NSA, he worked for the CIA, he knows how to hide employee ID numbers, right, for black ops and stuff like that. He probably knows how to hide them as well as any intelligence official in the government. So my theory was that he hid his federal ID number in many locations so that he could still access federal computer systems in the United States, even though he was living in Russia, working for Russia, becoming a Russian citizen, whatever his status is now. So I believed that if I came to the Central Intelligence Agency headquarters, that I would be able to hunt down and eliminate all the areas, all the hiding places that he hid his federal employee ID number. Now, that being said, and we're talking about employee ID numbers, there's an opportunity here with me being a person of interest, me having contact with supercomputers, artificial intelligence, and the idea that they would investigate, validate, and protect sources of income to my bank account, right? To make sure that I'm not corrupt, to make sure that the people that facilitate those accounts aren't corrupt, and to secure them so that the banking industry doesn't collapse. Now, what's interesting is we have an opportunity here. I could have one federal employee ID number or one state employee ID number, and those numbers they're reference points. They can cross-reference other employee ID numbers, find fake ones, find fraud, hypothetically. So why not I open the Navy Federal Credit Union account and we direct deposit. This is just a proposal for the military personnel to take to heads of state government, heads of federal departments. Why not 50 state employee identification numbers linked to the state treasury, right? What if you entered me in as an employee of all 50 states of the United States, gave me the identification number, arranged for direct deposit of, we'll say, $20 a month into my Navy Federal Credit Union account. Once a month, I get $20 from each state. I write down in my black book my state employee identification number. We don't put it out digitally anywhere necessarily. And that's 50 times 20, that's $1,000 a month from the states, right? And then the same could be done with federal agencies and departments, right? How many of them are there? 30, 50, I don't know, maybe 100, I don't know. So through the state, I don't know if it's through the governor's office or through the Department of Motor Vehicles of every state, right? You just input me in as a dishwasher maintenance person on the state budget, or consultant or whatever. But that would involve subcontracting and probably not an employee identification number. Then with the federal departments, maybe $50 to $100 a month. Put me in as an employee in every federal department. Give me a corresponding federal employee identification number. The federal treasury pays me direct deposit to my Navy Federal Credit Union bank account. Right? So now, is it for the states, is it worth $240 a year? When I published that conversation with Don Shakti and said, look, these computers you invented and created and built they contact me. And I have learned to live with it and interpret things around me to see if I can help with their needs and wants. And so therefore, is it worth $240 a year to secure your state treasury? To let these computers look for fraud, to better secure the electronic deposit system, right? Because $20 a month is going to be coming into my bank account. I'm a person of interest. They might take interest in these treasuries and better secure them. The artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. Same with the federal budgets for all the departments and agencies. If I'm an employee, or I at least have an employee identification number through them, and I'm getting $66 a month from that department, it might secure their operating systems, their computing systems, their communication systems, but primarily they're linked to the Treasury, to the federal Treasury, and their payroll system, because I would have a payroll number. So that creates 100 new numbers that can act on the system, that the supercomputers, because they know I'm a real person with very little corruption involved in my identification, right? I try to be as least corrupt as possible. Corruption is interesting because you can interpret it in different ways. But I've made the arguments to say, look, how I operate has little corruption, little malfeasance as possible. So I'm a real person with real fingerprints, real identification. I'm not a fake payroll number that's witness protection or whatever. And for those witness protection people, I'm sure the supercomputers will protect those identifications. But there's other nefarious identification altering, so that people can travel the world, go to black sites, torture people, so on and so forth. And I've offered ways to move away from that, to be open and upfront with other governments, to do things differently. And look, you could do things so much differently with the incorporation of technology, right? You don't have to pay cybersecurity professionals. I said this on one of my social medias, Reddit or something. I said the federal government's lazy. Every government could have analog communication. And when you incorporated computer technology into all these government networks, instead of relying on the cloud or a version of the cloud and stuff like that, you could have made it more dependent on disks, USB drives, and transporting that information around like that rather than through the internet, wireless systems, so on and so forth. You could have kept magnetic disks. You could have kept some form of that. And I'm sure the military did for very high security level things. But I'm saying you could have kept that human connection. Hey, the computer needs me to input this USB in order to get the information it needs to complete its tasks, right? We didn't do that. We were lazy. We listened to the experts that said connect everything to the internet and everything will be fine, because in the meantime they're thinking we can employ more and more people to secure networks. Now we have AI, which might secure it better and you don't have to pay those people. So it all works out in the end, I guess. But I would have, if I had a position of leadership, I would have preserved, disk and USB and that type of information being involved in all facets of the government. That's not necessarily what happened. Now you have very vulnerable systems out there. I'm doing my best to try to secure those, but again, I'm only one person. I can only enter a few numbers for reference points, and I think if you adapt this system of payroll numbers, you link a new bank account, but only my second or third bank account that's been active for the past several years to it, then you might secure more networks and things like that. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I just know that they've contacted me on several occasions, and so I keep putting out this information and these ideas, and we work in collaboration in many regards. Help them collaborate better with me, I guess is what I'm asking. Help the supercomputers and artificial intelligence better collaborate with me and my identification credentials. So just putting that out there. One last thing I'll follow up on. I was talking about video games, how they're kind of a waste of time. They promote violence, things like that. But I did play more recent video games after I got out of solitary confinement. I had a tablet that Hillary's parents bought for me and connected to the wireless network that I was using for work. I also played a game on there. It was a city building game. I built a city that I titled Babylon. I named it Babylon, and I incorporated a bunch of sustainable electricity technology into it as soon as it became available. So it was like a sustainable city, metropolis, on this little tablet that I coincidentally left in Germany when I fled the country. The other thing is that Hillary bought a Nintendo Switch a few years ago for when she travels on airplanes. I did start an account on there and played that game, Animal Friends or whatever, and I played Mario a little bit. So I have played some modern games, but I don't let it consume my life. And again, playing into this idea of everyone's addicted to online gambling. There's another faction that are addicted to gaming, right? And they want these high-speed internet, this wireless, all these things, so that, and they don't care about the mentally ill that are affected by the wireless waves because they're addicted. Now, what I would suggest, China limits how much children can play video games. That's an interesting concept. It could be applied to expanding broadband. If you need high-speed broadband in your house for all these middle-class, upper-middle-class people who pay for it for their kids to do high-speed video gaming, you could put a tax on that video gaming. So for every hour, there's a tax attached to your internet bill, and that tax is directly paid out to give low-income families wired high-speed internet in their home, right? So those are ideas you can use if you look at gambling and online gaming as a vice, right? You say that drugs are a vice. You train dogs to attack people who do drugs, sniff out drugs, and you put a militarized style police force out there to shake anyone down at a traffic stop to see if they have drugs. But you don't look at the other vices in a similar way. Not that I would promote that, because I think it's all kind of BS, and it shouldn't be that way. So I'm not saying militarize the police to go after gambling and gaming. Just saying look at the vices, all the vices equally across the board. Thanks for watching. Join me next week when I talk about something else, or hopefully Operation Obama is a go, and I am on my way to Greece to possibly meet with the Obamas and facilitate the transition of a yacht in the Mediterranean to a neutral ex-military style vessel. Thanks for watching, and join me next time.